Today we're diving into one of the most ambitious urban projects ever attempted, Rio de Janeiro's Favela Bairro project. This was a massive, huge plan to completely transform the city's famous informal settlements, the favelas. But this huge ambition ran headfirst into a monumental question. I mean, you've got hundreds of thousands of people living in these vast, unplanned communities. So how do you even begin to formalize the informal? How do you start bringing services and safety to people who have lived without them for decades? Okay, so to really get what a big deal this project was, you got to understand what things were like for residents before any of this started. For the people living there, daily life was just a constant uphill battle. You had open sewers literally running through the streets, which meant a constant risk of diseases like cholera. The pathways, they were so narrow and twisting that if there was an emergency, an ambulance or a fire truck simply couldn't get through. No way. And on top of all that, a lot of these homes were built on really steep, unstable hillsides, so the threat of a deadly landslide was always there. So faced with this reality, the city of Rio decided to do something huge. They made a massive billion-dollar bet on a whole new way of thinking. And when I say massive, I mean it. The scale here was just unprecedented. Kicking off in 1994 with major funding from the Inter-American Development Bank, over $1 billion poured into this project. This was a huge shift in policy, moving away from the old approach of just ignoring these areas, or even worse, bulldozing them. So what exactly was the Favela Bairro project? Well, at its heart, the idea was to upgrade, not erase. The goal was to improve the quality of life from the inside out and, this is crucial, to formally connect these communities to the rest of Rio with all the rights and services that come with that. And this whole idea of upgrading from within, that was pretty revolutionary for the time. Instead of the typical approach of just sending in bulldozers to clear everything out, the project brought in architects and engineers to actually work with the communities to try and preserve the social fabric that was already there. So how'd they do it? Their whole strategy really boiled down to 4 key areas of focus, 4 main pillars of transformation. All right, first up, the absolute basics. Bringing in clean, piped water and building proper sanitation systems. Honestly, this was a total game changer for public health. Just that one step dramatically cut down on the spread of waterborne diseases that had been a problem for generations. Next up, Pillar 2 was all about accessibility. They paved roads and widened footpaths. And look, this wasn't just about convenience, it was literally a lifeline. For the very first time, emergency services could actually reach people who needed help. Plus, it meant better access to jobs and services in the rest of the city. Pillar number 3 was all about housing and safety. A really critical piece of this was identifying those homes in super high-risk zones, like on those steep, unstable hills, and moving families to safer places. This was a direct, life-saving measure designed to prevent exactly the kind of horrible landslide tragedies we've seen in the region. And last but not least, Pillar 4, community. See, this project knew it wasn't just about pipes and pavement. By building new schools, health clinics, and sports centers, they invested in people. They were trying to create opportunities and help residents feel like they were truly part of the city. Okay, so the big question. Did this billion-dollar bet actually pay off? Let's talk about the tangible triumphs, the real-world impact these changes had on people's lives. On the ground, the change was massive. I mean, you can see it right here. You go from open sewers and disease to proper drainage and way better health. Those unsafe, impassable pathways became actual roads that an ambulance could use. Community centers started to break down the walls of social exclusion, and families were moved from fragile, vulnerable homes into safer structures. But like most big stories, it's not quite that simple. For all its incredible successes, the Favela Bairro project wasn't a silver bullet. There was a lot of work left undone. And one of the biggest hurdles was just the sheer scale of the problem. Rio is a huge city, so while the project helped hundreds of thousands of people, a lot of favelas were never reached. The need was just bigger than the project's capacity. And all the while, new informal settlements just kept growing. And beyond that, physical upgrades can only do so much. They couldn't really fix the deeper, systemic problems. There wasn't enough funding for long-term maintenance, so some of that new infrastructure started to fall apart. And crucially, the project didn't do much to address the root cause of it all, poverty. Low incomes, not enough jobs, and crime. New roads and pipes just can't solve those kinds of problems on their own. So where does that leave us? What is the ultimate legacy of Favela Bairro? Is it a blueprint that other cities should copy? Or is it more of a cautionary tale, a warning about the limits of these kinds of projects? Well,
The truth is, it's kind of both, right? On one hand, it proved without a doubt that smart, respectful, targeted investment can make a massive difference in people's lives and can actually save lives. But on the other hand, it served as a really important lesson. You can't pave over deep-seated urban inequality.
And that really leaves us with this huge question, one that cities all over the world are still grappling with. When we try to lift up our most neglected neighborhoods, is focusing on the physical stuff, the infrastructure, is that ever truly enough to solve the much, much deeper challenges of social inequality? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.